Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. And thank you once again for joining another live stream, live from beautiful Abruzzo. It is so good to be back. We missed last week. It's just not the same, is it, if we don't have these Thursday nights together? I look forward to them, and I hope you do too. So let us know where you are in the world. Let us know that that you've missed us as well. Tell us if you are or not, if you have or not. If it's your first time, then welcome, welcome, welcome. What can I say? It's where have you been? You should have been here many, many, many times before. But there you go. It's good that you found the channel, and thank you so much to everybody else for the support. So tonight, I was just back from our holiday 2 days ago. So I've taken the easy option tonight, which is a Q&A session. It's not really easy because I don't know what's coming at me, but I didn't have to put as much effort in. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Didn't have to put as much effort into getting things ready for you guys. But I'm here. I'm ready. I'm ready for any of you to try and catch me out with a question, and it's definitely going to be somebody definitely will catch me out. But yeah, so anything that you want to know about buying, restoring, or living in Italy, I will do my best to answer. I've also got some questions here that people have sent me online, so I'll go through some of them to give you time. Don't send any questions just yet because, as you know, I do like to rabbit on for about 10 minutes before we actually get into it. So there you go. Everything feels new. It's weird. Just 1 week off, and what's happened? Do you like my tan? You notice a little bit darker and a little bit grayer? Please, the sun does that. Don't know why. I tend to tan, and then 2 days later, it's gone, but the grey hair remains. There you go. I blame my father and grandfather. What can I say? Okay, so what we're going to be doing for the next few weeks in September, I class this almost like a new season. I feel like a new person. I'm refreshed. Not really, but anyway, there you go. So let's have a look and see what we're going to be doing. Once I get my buttons seems to have moved. Tony, the producer's definitely moved the buttons. Which everybody, things start going wrong tonight. That's because he's actually drinking, and he's not drinking alcohol tonight. He's drinking Coca-Cola. Can you believe? There go the sound effects. He's actually drinking Pepsi-Cola. There's definitely something else in that can. There is no way that he is just drinking that. But there you go. Roger's saying he's looking forward to the tour in October, and I'm looking forward to meeting you, Roger. I'm going to be talking about that in a second as well. What was I going to say? Oh, yes, for next week. So tonight, just so you know, tonight's subject is, if Tony takes this... if you could just give me the screen for 1 second. Tonight's subject, the big, massive Q&A where you can ask anything that you like. Next week, so that is the 14th of September, is the house I want to buy legal? So this is something I get emailed about all the time. So we're going to get rid of all these worries that you may have. We need to do a little bit more legal stuff. We do too much messing around on this Thursday night session. We need to start getting serious. So this is the first of the serious one. 14th of September, is the house I want to buy legal? I'm going to tell you what checks are done. I'm going to tell you how it all works and make sure that you don't listen to these stupid armchair experts that don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to tell you how it really, really works. So that's the next week, Thursday at the same time. Then on the 21st, why Abruzzo? We do these quite often because I love talking about Abruzzo, and it's an amazing place. I'm going to slightly change the format of this, so the where to invest and where to live. I'm going to be giving you my tips. Obviously, it's only my opinion, which everybody knows I like to give. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about the best places to invest and best places to live, in my opinion, in Abruzzo. And then on the 28th of September, meet the home buyers. Yes, it's back round again. I haven't decided who this month, but I think it's about time. I noticed that Pete Rondo was on tonight. I think it's about time we bring Pete here, because I keep saying his name. It keeps coming on every single week, and every time I keep saying, yes, Pete, you're coming on soon, you're coming on soon. So expect a phone call, Pete. I will be sending you a message, and it would be great to tell your story in the amazing place of Pacentro, where you bought and moving to. So it'd be great to have an update from you as well, because I know, if I remember rightly, is going through the, what's the word I'm looking for? The visa to move out here. So yes, Pete, expect a WhatsApp, and hopefully you're going to be ready for the 28th of September. So let's meet the home buyers. The last notice I want to give, we're talking about the tours again. Home in Italy on the Road 2024. These are the tour dates: January 25th, 26th, March 21st, 22nd, and May 23rd, 24th. Anybody that doesn't know what these I mean, I talk about it enough now, so everybody should know. But anybody that doesn't know, basically, we meet the day before of each one that shows on here. Things that are done in line with the Ryanair flight that comes in from the UK. Anybody coming from outside of the UK, basically, you can get into Rome, you can get a bus from Rome to Pescara, and we collect from Pescara. So what happens is these tours are usually Thursday and Friday. On the Wednesday evening, we get together early evening in the center of Pescara. I'll show you a few little places around there, and we have an aperitivo together, have a chat about what's going to happen, and everybody gets to know each other. Then on the Thursday, we collect from the center of Pescara. We take you around different towns and villages and show you different properties to suit all budgets. We show you restoration projects. We meet the geometry. We meet people like Domenico. Unfortunately, you get to meet also Tony. That's the producer, Tony. And also you get to meet my as well. Here come the sound effects. You also get to meet my wife, Silvana, as well, who is a huge part of this business. Obviously, we do things 50-50, but because I'm the gobby one out of the two of us, I do this every Thursday, and she comes to life during the legal process. So you get to meet all of us, and we have lunch together, and then we drop you back off at Pescara, and then we do the same again on the Friday. We collect from the airports from anybody coming in to Pescara on the Wednesday, and then we drop you back off on the Saturday. They're brilliant trips. What else can I say? They are brilliant trips. They aren't paid for, unfortunately, so it is a charge of €295 per person. That doesn't include flights or anything like that, but once you're here, it includes your lunches together, it includes your aperitivo evening, and it includes your transport where we collect you and take you around and all that kind of thing. It's just a great introduction to Abruzzo, in my opinion, again. So hopefully you're going to join us on that. We're getting lots of bookings, which on that note, I just want to quickly say, the couple that I'm not going to give names out, but the second person traveling surname is Hernandez, and the address is in Florida. If you can, please contact us again, because you sent a form into us, but your email address doesn't work. So we're trying to get in touch with you to send a deposit invoice, and it's not working. So the second person in the group, his surname is Hernandez, and the address is in Florida. So if that is you and you are watching, then please get in touch with us, because your address isn't working. But if you go onto our website, which is homeinitaly.com, you will see at the top one of the buttons that does say tours. If you click on that, it gives you the dates and you can book on there. At the moment, you can't pay on the website, but I'm going to be changing that within hopefully the next few days by Monday. So that all should be working. So that's the tours. So if you fancy that, why not go for it? We do take people around as well outside of these tour dates, but the tours are becoming more and more popular, and it's just a great way to see a number of different properties. Rather than coming sort of fixated on one thing, you get to see lots of different things, and yeah, they're just great things. Okay, any more notices, Tony? You can start putting some more hellos up if there is and things like that. I'll tell you when to start asking your questions. And lots of you, I want to hear lots of questions tonight, because usually it's a small amount of people that ask questions. Ask away, because what happens is, I've just been talking to Tony about this. We have these Q&A sessions. Then I guarantee the day after there'll be loads of questions. I meant to ask you this. I meant to ask you this. So ask now. The chance is now. There you go. So what was the other thing I was going to say? Completely. Oh yes, my holiday. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you our sort of holiday shots and things like that. Oh, here's Pete. Hopefully I'll be in Italy in November. This is the guy who's going to do that. That's great, Pete, but we want you on here before then. So I'll be in touch with you soon. Yes, my holiday to Sardinia. Truman, Dave, we're so excited to be working with you soon. Me too, and I'll be contacting you on Monday, as promised. I keep losing my thing. Oh, yes, Sardinia. What a great place. Beautiful place. Part of my holiday was a little bit of work, not too much. I got some great contacts out there. We are going to be showcasing some properties in Sardinia, completely different to the kind of things that we put on, but that's because people do ask for different types of properties. So I'm going to kick the big, massive Q&A off with this question that somebody sent to me, because it's going to sort of tie in the Sardinia thing. And it was, when I find it, this was back from Mike P. I notice you will be showcasing Sardinia's luxury properties. Will this mean that you are changing direction as a company, or will you still advertise affordable properties in Abruzzo? What I do want to say is I live in Abruzzo. We obviously specialize here. Everybody knows my passion for Abruzzo, so that will never change. The YouTube channel is going fantastic, but it's only gone fantastic, in my opinion, because of the direction we've gone and the support from people like you. So it's not going to suddenly be that we start dealing in luxury properties and start dealing in and just doing that kind of thing, because that's not the idea. A home in Italy is supposed to have something for everybody, and we treat everybody the same. Whether somebody buys a property for 20,000 euros or 200,000 or 2 million, it doesn't matter. It really genuinely doesn't. We treat everybody exactly the same. We get excited for people exactly the same. So when we're doing these things, it's going to be an addition. The Sardinia trip obviously was a holiday primarily, but yes, we've made some great contacts, and we've got some people down there who I really trust. They actually came to me via another contact, and they're just fantastic. They do restorations, they do everything. The properties are obviously more expensive because Sardinia is much more expensive than Abruzzo, but it's not going to change anything. Everything is still going to be the same for Abruzzo. The videos that we do here in Abruzzo are still going to happen every single Saturday as they do now. The only change will be additional videos. That's the idea of this. So if people are looking in Sardinia, we've got Puglia coming soon. I've got one contact there that we're definitely dealing with, and I'm just talking to another agent who that looks like that's pretty much done as well. Also, we're hoping La Marche is coming soon, and Molise. But again, it's not taken away from what I believe in, which is this area and what I often spout off about. It's just there for people that maybe don't want to buy in Abruzzo, or maybe want to buy in the north, or maybe want to buy in the south, or in Sicily, or whatever. We're trying to create a community and trying to create so many contacts, as many contacts as we can. And the best way to do that, we feel, is through the YouTube channel, through these that will carry on every single Thursday. So no, we're not changing any business model. These Thursday evenings will be free and will stay here for as long as I possibly can do them. I enjoy them. I know you guys get lots out of it as well. And the support we get is fantastic. And we will not change that. That I will promise you. What I will promise is we will be changing things on our website, as I did promise before when Tony very kindly put loads of laughing voices over the top of it. I will be updating the website this September. I'm considering a complete change of the website, but there'll certainly be a change for people that are maybe not ready to. We've been doing so many remote purchases from YouTube, but I know there's so many people that don't want to do that, and so many people that want to do the traditional thing of coming out and viewing properties and all the rest of it. And I understand that. And I think we've possibly gone down one line and slightly neglected another one. So we're gonna make sure that everybody is happy with what we're doing. So that's going to be updates on the website, regular updates on the website, and a few changes that we're going to do as well, and a new forum that we're going to be introducing. So you can tell what I've been doing on my holiday, sat in the shade, thinking of all of this. And yes, we did have a great holiday. Thank you very much for everybody who was asking. Starry is saying, any chance you'll pick up Calabria? Strangely enough, I've just had some developers they've bought a plot of land. I think there's 4 villas on there, and they've asked me to start advertising them. So yes, that's going to be coming soon as well. Okay, so that's the first question out of the way. I've got some more here. If you're ready, you can start pinging your questions along. And if there's none to start with, Tony, then I will start on these that I got on. Oh, here we go. So this is from just me, Dawn. Okay, looking for a home in a village closer to the coast, Atessa or Casalbordino. Any recommendations? It has to embody true Italy, which I think is harder to find closer to the coast. I agree with you. It is harder to find closer to the coast, but it depends. When you say close to the coast, do you mean that you need to be able to walk out of your door and go onto the beach? Because if you do, they're the ones that lack that true Italy feeling, because they're modern resorts. Pescara, unfortunately, was completely destroyed in World War II, so it has very little old town. It's just a modern, vibrant sort of city on the beach. If you like that, then obviously there's a number of places like that. The old towns tend to be up on the hills, so then if you want to go to the beach, then you usually have to drive, or you've got a steep walk back. In terms of the two questions that you ask, Atessa, would you say that's close to the coast? I mean, the thing, I'm going to go through this when we do the why Abruzzo. Sometimes when you look on a map, what looks close to the coast may not be because of the roads to get there. I would still say from Atessa, you've got a good half an hour. That does have the Italian feel. And I'm going to be a little bit cruel now. Casalbordino, I think it lacks something myself. I'm not a little, but obviously some people do like it. It's not my favorite place, if I'm to be honest with you. So I think if you're choosing between my preference between the two would be Atessa. Casalbordino is closer to the coast. My preference would be Atessa because I think it's got a beautiful old town. And also it's higher up. You've got lots of views and all that kind of thing. There's just something lacking for me in Casalbordino. Sorry to say. Anyway, there you go. That's the first question. Tony, have you got others or shall I? Okay, here we go. Michelle, my hubby refuses to live through another restoration. Can your team handle any needed updates for us? Yes, definitely. It's something that we do. We don't do as much as what we used to do because there are lots of people that do want to buy more habitable properties. I think I saw Tanya mention that she was on. I think she's on tonight's stream. That's going to be the next project that we're going to be doing, and I'm sure they will let us follow theirs. We've got about 4 or 5 projects on at the minute. Obviously, after the August, nothing happens. Now people are slowly getting back into real life, including us. So if you look at the webinar that we did with a couple called Stan and Sharon, I think it's a meet the home buyers, but it's a restoration one, and that'll give you an idea of the kind of thing we can do. So yes, we can. If you don't want to live through another restoration, then obviously there are a good selection of properties where you don't have to go down that line. I understand people. I love them personally. I think restorations are fantastic, and I think the way Stan and Sharon's properties turn out. I mentioned them purely because we did a webinar a couple of months ago with them and showed lots of photographs and things like that. They're actually coming back at the beginning of October, so hopefully, if they don't fall out with us when they're here and they like everything, then they'll do one after everything's finished. The transformation in that place is just incredible, and I don't think they would have been able to buy a property for the same price at the same level of quality that they've got. I think they've actually spent less. In my opinion, doing the restorations, and it just looks fantastic. But yes, we can handle. It all depends on area. If it's too far away, then we need to be able to easily get to it, or our contacts to easily to be able to easily get to it. But if it's in Abruzzo, then there's a good chance that we can. Sorry, Tony, was that a question that you put up? Tom, buy 50k renovation project and put 50k into it, or buy a 100k house that has been remodeled. Which will have more bang for the buck? Okay, well, in Stan, I was talking about Stan and Sharon's. I don't think, because they bought their house at a great price, I don't think they could have bought what they've got now for the same price, if you know what I mean. So it's a tough one because it depends what you're buying, Tom, to be honest with you. I think if you're getting a bargain property, then I would go for the remodeling, because sometimes the 100k house that's remodeled, somebody may be asking a little bit too much for it, maybe a little bit small, there may be some compromises to be had. It's a tough one. I tend to think that lots of properties that we get at the moment that are finished, I usually video them if I think that you wouldn't be able to get exactly what you're saying there, buy it cheaper and renovate it yourself. I think if somebody needs to get rid of, sometimes people that have restored it, they may well be foreigners and they may want to get rid of them reasonably quick. They're usually the ones that ask the most money, but they're usually the ones that need to sell quickly. So with some hard bargaining, I would go for the one that's remodeled. if they're not going to do the bargain, then I would definitely go for the cheaper one and remodel it. That would be my opinion, definitely. But again, it all depends on the property. Okay, so Tony, can I ask it? What does category C6 mean? C6, you have C2s and C6s. C6 is a garage, if I remember. The C2 is storage and that kind of thing. So when you have categories, if something is classed as something like a garage or a barn or that kind of thing, then it's a category C6. It's not something that's habitable. Now, if you've seen a property that is a house and it's classed as a C6, or it's a barn that's been converted and it's classified as a C6, it means that they haven't changed the category. They've not gone through the full process of changing that. And you always have to be careful with things like that, because a C6 should relate to barn or garages. You will come across C2s and C6s. They're the most popular categories, but that's what that means. If it starts with an A, then that is somewhere that is habitable. A6, there shouldn't be A6s anymore, but if the vast majority will see A4s, A7s, that kind of thing, that means it's a property, it's a habitable property. Cindy, registered for January tour, need assistance in finding public transport from Rome to Pescara. Thank you, Cindy in New York. Not sure if you sent an email, because I know my wife was answering one today that was looking from transport. I would say to go onto the Flixbus website, dead easy to use. Flix is spelled Flix, Flixbus. If you go on there, and it's dead easy, you can put where, I presume you'll be coming into Rome Fiumicino. If you put Rome Fiumicino and then Pescara, it drops right in the center of Pescara, where the train station is, where the G Hotel, where some people are staying, or you may be staying somewhere right in the very center, and it's dead simple. And the prices I saw today, even if you're going in the next couple of days, it was something like 20 odd euros. It's ridiculous prices. There are other bus companies, but I would, do you agree with that, Tony? Is Flixbus the one that, yeah, he's sticking his thumb up at me? I think that's his, hopefully he is. And that's the that's the one that he uses. So Flixbus is a great one. The website is dead easy to use. There is also the train. Oh, Tony's also saying Pronto Bus. So Pronto, Pronto Bus is also another company. They're all pretty much the same. They all do the same route. They're all the same prices, and the times are great as well. They pick straight outside the airport terminals, and they take you straight into Pescara. So yeah. And one quick note about the tour as well, the ones coming up in October that are fully booked, anybody that's watching that's booked onto those, I will be contacting everybody early next week to organize a meeting, just so everybody knows exactly what's going on. So just to let you know that, because I know we're only about a month away from the first one, so I will be in touch early next week. Okay, Tony, I'm just going to take a couple of these questions that I've written down here. So this is from Christine M. Outside of Abruzzo, which is your favorite area and why? Outside of Abruzzo. Well, my favorite area is definitely Abruzzo, and I've decided that Italy is it needs turning the other way around. It needs turning upside down or the other way around. Why do I say that? Because the so-called rich part of Italy is the north, the rich north, and then the south, a bit like in the UK. You know, they class, most people will class us northerners as one thing, and us northerners class the one southerners as the other thing. In Italy, it's the opposite way around. And I had this conversation with my wife when we were coming back from a short break that we had in a place called Orvieto, which is a very nice town just north of Rome. Last year, we also went to Siena. We did some signings in Siena for somebody, and we also went somewhere else in Tuscany, which I can't remember. We also went to Umbria, and they're all great places, and I really like them. And it was when I went to Orvieto, and it's quite samey, I find. I've not been in the far north, I must admit. I do want to go there. I've been to Liguria, parts of Liguria, which seems to be, really, really nice. I've not been to some of the mountain areas in the north, and I do want to do that. But I find that the Tuscan, Umbrian. I'm not going to say La Marca because I quite like La Marca. La Marca is quite similar to Abruzzo, I would say. For me, my passions are in the south, but not every region of the south. But I do really like Puglia to go down and have a weekend breaks and things like that. I wouldn't live there. Sicily, I absolutely love. Again, I wouldn't live there because it does lack some of the services, but some of the places down there are incredible. And when you think of, we went to Noto last time in Sicily, and then obviously places like Lecce and Puglia, when you see these towns, they're incredible. They're absolutely, I mean, stunning I use a lot, as everybody knows, but they are stunning. And when you see some of the northern towns, they're great, but they're nothing compared to the richness that the South must have been at some point, you know, whether it's lack of investment or everything else. And that's why I think it's upside down, because I think that Italy should start investing far more down there, because there's places that's just, I don't know, they're just mind-blowing, some of these places in the South. Now, I class Abruzzo, and it is literally in the middle. It is squashed in the middle. We seem to have influences from the South and from the North, and that's why I really love it, because it's got everything here, in my opinion. But I just find that the real Italy for me is, I'm going to say Abruzzo, but the real Italy then for me starts in the South. And that does include places like Naples, and it definitely includes places like Puglia. It's just, again, some of the services that lack. If I had to choose somewhere else, I don't know what I'd say. What would I say? Oh, I don't. I would probably say Puglia, even though I think Sardinia is just, Sicily, I think is just magical. I think I would probably stick to the mainland and say Puglia, and in particular maybe around the Martina Franca, Otranto, is it Otranto? No, the White City, Ostuni, those sorts of areas. I think they're great. Still love Abruzzo more, just to set that clear. But yes, Kim, do you have any real estate contacts in Puglia? Yes, we do, and they're going to be coming on soon. I've got one guy who works a little bit like I do, except he's a registered estate agent down there, whereas we do more, as everybody knows, the kind of things that we do with registered consultants. But yes, he's fantastic. He's the kind of person where he will contact you, find out what you're looking for, and then start the search from there. And I'm also getting another estate agent that's coming on board in Puglia. So if you are looking in Puglia, Kim, just send me an email to info@homeinitaly.com. Let me know what you're looking for on a budget, and I'll pass it on to people down there. They are fantastic. There's one guy down there that we're dealing with who was actually born in the UK, then moved to Italy, is Italian, and his English are fantastic. So it's a great great person to know. Roger, we'll be dependent on public transportation when we first move over. How would you rate the transportation in Bunna? So I would say that's Bugnara. Sorry, Tony, can you just put that one? I saw Bugnara, Pacentro, and somewhere else, if you could. Pacentro and Petorano sul Gisio. Okay, so everybody knows that I love the Sulmona area, and I think the public transport is excellent there. There's some towns better than others, but all the towns that you've mentioned there have buses that go into Sulmona. That's the main hub. And the way the bus system works in that particular part of Abruzzo, called the Peligna Valley, they literally circle every village, and everybody then goes down into Sulmona. And then Sulmona, you've got all the transport that you need in there. So I would say, out of all of them, I think I'd probably say Pacentro slightly more, but yeah, no, you should be able to get around with no problem at all from there. If you're completely relying on public transportation, you may want to consider a little bit close. Maybe places like Raiano is a great place because it's got a train station there as well. Intro d'Acqua is really, really close to Sulmona, so these are other places. But yeah, I mean, the public transportation is very good at that side, which is why we tend to deal a lot over there as well, because I know that's what people want. Okay. Somebody has asked me, I want to just, because while we're on public transport, can I come back, Tony, to Brett's? I'll come back to Brett's question shortly, because on the note of public transport, I do want to say this, because it was part of somebody's question to me, talking about how do our clients that come from the US usually go on when they haven't got public transport, because they have to take their test again. They have to take their driving test again, which is true. Americans and people, the UK is different now, that's been changed, but people outside of the EU, when you come over to Italy, unless there's an agreement between Italy and your country, then you do have to take your test again and get your driving license again, which is absolutely ridiculous. And there are people, lots of people now that's been doing this, and they've done it successfully. We've got a number of clients ourselves that have done this. But there is possibly a silver lining on all of this, because I was reading yesterday on the EU website, the European Union website, about a proposal. Now, this is going back to March, so considering how long proposals take when it comes to the EU, part of their proposal is to simplify situations like this, to make it so if the EU classes this is going to make you laugh, classes the country where you're coming from to have similar driving standards to itself, then you should be able to change your license. Now, it's only a proposal at the minute, but that's what they're doing. So basically what they're saying is, if your country has similar driving standards to Italy, then you should be able to change. Now, that should throw it open quite wide, this thing, because drivers in Italy are not the best. So if they do go ahead with this proposed thing, then that should make it easier for Americans to be able to switch their licenses. But please don't go on Facebook tomorrow and say, we've heard on this show that this is going to happen and that's going to happen. It's a proposal at the minute. But there's a fact, if you read about it on the EU, I just put it in Google. If you just put EU proposal for driving license outside of the EU, something like that, it will come up. And what they're planning on doing is making it easy for people to be able to get their licenses online, change their licenses and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully there may be a silver lining on that. But as I said, please don't go writing on Facebook saying I said it, because I would just deny it. Okay. Tony, have you got any more for me? He's got a serious face on now. He's got the face. So I can see him on a little screen. He's even got his tongue hanging out now. He's sticking his thumb up and his tongue's hanging out as he's reading the questions. Okay, while he's doing that one, I'm going to answer this one from Mark H. Is it true that both buyers and sellers pay the agents? Yes, it is true. Estate agents here take 3% usually, with a minimum of €3,000 plus VAT, which is currently 22%. So that's 3,660. So if you're buying a house for €10,000, 3,660 is paid from the buyer, and 3,660 is paid from the seller. That is the way it is here. We can't kick and scream about it. There's nothing we can do about it. That's the way it is. Under 100,000, it's usually a minimum of 3K, but there are some agencies that are charging a minimum of 4K, which I think is not right personally, but that's the way it is. And yes, it is payable by both people. So hopefully you find a good agent that looks after you, or hopefully you'll use our services anyway. There you go. Okay, Tony, I'll let you go ahead. If you, Dennis, is it Dennis White? I always get something that just, okay, yes, Dennis White. Do you also recommend resources for people who are looking to buy a home and retire in Italy but currently live in the USA? Yeah, I mean, it depends what sort of thing. I was asking about help with visas and if you recommend people or resources. Yeah, I mean, the visa one, to be honest with you, because when you're applying, I think if you're applying for citizenship through bloodline or that kind of thing, then I can understand why people get people involved to help them through, because it is quite a complex thing. And yes, we do have a contact for people that are looking to do that through blood, through, I don't know, grandfather was maybe Italian or however it is, but that is quite complex. For a visa, you really don't need to get anybody to help you with that, because it's all done at your local Italian consulate. You can't do it when you're here. You have to do it while you're still in the country where you live at the moment. So you would contact your local Italian consulate and ask them what are the requirements. Now, don't just take it that you've heard from another Italian consulate, or somebody said, we used, for instance, Miami office, and they said they need this, because what Miami may need and what Texas may need, or Houston, I think it is, and what somewhere else may need could be completely different. And it's actually done at local level. So you need to ask them, what do I need to do? The basics of it are usually you need to have bought a property, or you need to have put a deposit on a property, or have a rental agreement for a minimum of 12 months. So that's one of the requirements. You also need to meet the income that's needed. It's worded strangely, because it said basically enough income to keep you here in Italy. But they do often say that the income needs to be, for a couple, round about 38,000 euros. For somebody that's single, round about 32,000 euros. But again, you need to ask your local, because they say substantial income is usually written. So I have known people that are on a lot less than that, and they've got the visas with no problem at all. That income has to come from pensions, or things like rental from properties and that kind of thing. You can't contact them and say, well, I've got $1 million or £1 million or €1 million, wherever it is, in my account, can I move to Italy? Because they won't. That's not classed as an income, because at the end of the day, you could go and buy a Ferrari or whatever the following day, and that income is gone. So it does have to be steady income from pensions and that kind of thing. It's called an elective residency visa, so an ERV. And you basically need to be claiming a pension to be able to get that. So if you are going to do, if you're talking about the visas, then the first port of call is the Italian consulate. Unfortunately, during COVID, it was actually great, because the Italian consulates weren't doing the meetings. You didn't have to go and meet them. You just sent everything in online, and people were getting issued their visas in no time at all. Some people in less than a week. It was unbelievable. Now they have gone back to appointments, which is a bit of a pain, because some of the appointments can be months and months and months away. So if you are planning on doing that, you need to get on with that as soon as possible. At least get the requirements, and then unfortunately you have to either buy a house, put a deposit on a house, or have a 12 months thing. And then there's lots of other things as well. Some people want you to have travel insurance, health insurance, and all that kind of thing. Cindy, does the dual US Italian citizenship allow me to get a driver's license or buy a car? Okay, so if you are an Italian citizen, then you can change your driving license. You should be able to change your driving, because you're an Italian citizen. But this is one of those questions, Tony, you might have done it. You might have put the question through that I may be stumped on. But no, as an Italian citizen, you should be able to get an Italian driving license. He says, I need to double check that, but I think you can. When it comes to buying a car, just to have it, that's more to do with residency, whether you can buy a car. And it's the same also in the UK. People say it's not, but it is. If you don't have a UK address, you can't buy a car, and you can't insure it, because it always asks you, are you a UK resident, and do you have a UK driving license? And it's similar here. So the fact that you are a US Italian citizen, if your residency is in the US, then that doesn't entitle you to buy a car, because you don't have anywhere to register that car here, and it needs to be registered to an address. To be able to register it to an address, you need to be a resident of that address. So you need to become resident of Italy, and then you can go ahead and get your car legally, but you wouldn't need that residency document. So just the fact that you're both citizens doesn't really alter that. It's all to do with an address. And again, that's because for insurance reasons, they need to know where you are. Also, if you do anything, I don't know, if you get into trouble for somewhere, have an accident or anything like that, you need to be an Italian resident, Italian citizen. Okay, while Tony's looking away at those questions, I'm going to do another one from here. I've already done this one. In your opinion, this has come from Scott B. In your opinion, is Abruzzo a good investment as far as renting? In my opinion, yes. And I know everybody's going to say, well, he would say that, but I stand by that. We have a number of investors that buy properties with us, and I think it's a fantastic investment, and I'll tell you why. I do think renting properties anywhere in the world, you can't just buy a property and expect to rent and make loads of money out of it, because we would all do it, and that's the way everybody would just go down that line. At the end of the day, you do need to study the areas more. It's not all about buying a cheap property and then just putting it up for rent thinking I'm going to make a fortune off it. People need a reason to go to that area, and even if people haven't seen that area before, and you think it's brilliant because you think it's picturesque and people go there, the writer, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm losing my English words. They write a review on Airbnb or whatever it is and say, yeah, it was a really nice place, but there wasn't much to do there. So you do need to find places where there's plenty to do, and also at the right price. And in my opinion, if you can do that, if you can match some of the townhouses that we've shown between, say, a range of up to 70k, maybe up to 80k as a maximum, to me, it's a no-brainer, because if you can buy something at 50, 60k that's habitable, even if it's not huge, if you do the sums, if you rent it out at a minimum of 50 euros a night, which is a minimum in most places, and around Sulmona, those areas, it's a lot higher, the rental. But let's say you do 50 euros a night. I've got my calculator. 50 euros a night. Let's say that you only get 3 months a year. Yeah. So I'm going to say, so 50 times, so 350 a week, and let's say we manage to do it just 3 months. So just 12, that's 4,200 per year on a property of 50k. You know, it's, to me, you times that then by 10, let's say another 12. That means in 12 years' time, you've paid for your investment. I know you've got taxes and things like that, but that's the way to look at it. It's in my opinion, they're no-brainers for properties up to 80k. If you're going to buy something at 200k, 250k, 300k upwards, unless it's luxurious with a swimming pool and all the rest of it, it may not be the time yet to do that. But the townhouses even up to 100k, it's going to be great. But if you can get townhouses up to 80k, and get the sort of rentals that people are commanding, then I think it's a brilliant investment. Again, that's my opinion, but I would definitely stand by that. Cindy, hello from Indiana, USA. We are a retired couple in our 70s. Is retiring to Italy actually doable? Of course it is. Why not? You would be amazed how many people are doing it, Cindy. Don't feel that you're on your own. And this is something, nice little lead into something that we're planning on doing soon, which is another community-based thing, to have some sort of forum where people can feel part of a community, if you like. And it is for people like you, Cindy, because often, you know, people are sat wherever you're sat. You say you're in Indiana, you know, thinking, can we really do this? Of course you can, because the amount of people that do it, and the amount of people that do it also in their 70s. I've got another couple that's coming out originally from the UK, moved to the US. They're retiring out here because they say the cost of living is just unbelievable in the US at the minute. Not just in the US, I think everywhere, the UK, wherever outside of, and obviously it's gone up in Italy as well, but it's still so much lower than places like the US. So to take equity out of properties that people have in countries such as the US, anywhere else, Canada, Australia, wherever it is, take the equity out of those properties and buy something potentially for a quarter of the price and sometimes less than that. So you got a huge lump sum into your bank account, and then the cost of living here, then definitely, you know, why not? Why not? What I would suggest to people like you, Cindy, is come on one of these tours. Come on the tours. I'm not saying to go and remote buy something tomorrow and let's get on with it. Come on one of the tours and just see if you think it's for you. And that's what these tours are all about, because they give you a glimpse into what could be your lifestyle. And the other great thing, with other people as well that are considering doing it themselves. But yes, we have lots of people. And 70 is the new, what do they say? The new 20? Am I just being flattering? Anyway, but yes, absolutely, definitely. And it's a great place to retire to. I'm obviously not retired yet. But everybody that's here that have done it just say it's a fantastic place to retire in, and it is. It will add years onto your life. Okay, so let's look at this next question from Cool Pot. Hi, I'm type 1 diabetic and I was wondering about prescription costs. It seems like you have a long-term condition, pay income tax. It's free. Is that correct? Sorry, it seems like if you have a long-term condition and pay income tax, it's free. So if you're paying some sort of taxes here, the medication is, I'm not sure where you're from, Cool Pot, but if you're from sort of States or Canada or any of these places, you'll be amazed that the medical costs are so much lower here. If you pay income tax, as I pay taxes, obviously there's lots of things that are free. There's also things that you do pay what they call a ticket from, which is like a prescription. But you're talking euros, as in it could be €7, €9, €10, something like that. So it obviously depends on the type of medication. It depends if you're paying income tax because you're self-employed here or income tax because you're employed here and that kind of thing. There's lots of things to consider. But yes, you should get, it will either be extremely cheap compared to what you used to, or free of charge. So yes, I'm going to happily say that yes to you. So that's from Cool Pot. Okay, Tony, have you got another one or shall I? Sally. Although I will learn Italian, I'm worried how my husband will get on if he does not manage to learn Italian very well. Is there a good expat community? Yes. What I will say is people that move to Italy, I'm going to be a little bit cruel now to Spain, and I don't mean to be, but a lot of the expat communities that go to places like Spain, I'm giving Spain as an example because there's us Brits, I think, pretty much invaded Spain a number of years ago, and that's a different type of expat community. People that want to move to Italy love Italy and want to be part of Italy and part of the whole Italian thing, and everybody's idea is to learn the language and be part of the community and all the rest of it. And learning another language is not very easy, but once you're here and you're using a lot, it does get easier and easier. And the expats tend to come out and say, no, we're just going to be with Italians. We don't want to get into an expat thing. But then you tend to find that they do need this circle of friends to help get through life. So yes, I'm going to say that the expat community, depending where you're buying, obviously if you're buying in a really remote village somewhere, maybe a lot less, but all the places I know there is always some sort of expat community. But what I will say to your husband, to tell your husband, is I was lucky because obviously my wife's Italian. She's always spoken to our children in Italian from birth, and that's what we do in our family. When my wife speaks to the kids, she speaks to them in Italian. When they speak to each other, they speak in Italian. When they speak to me, they speak in English, and I speak English with my wife, and that's how we do it. So I am lucky in the sense that I've listened to the language for a long time. When we moved here, I couldn't do anything. I'll be honest. Even though I'd heard my wife speaking to the kids for all those years, yes, the odd word I knew, but I'm quite talkative. I know you may be surprised to hear that, but when I go out, I'm the one that just won't shut up. And my wife is completely the opposite. And we spent years going to visit family, and I could never really get to know my wife's family because I couldn't speak the language. And that carried on when I came here as well. And people were saying to me, you should study, you should do this. I did my studying. I don't knock anybody that goes to school and goes to university and all the rest of it. That wasn't me. As soon as I could get out of school, I did. And I went down a different line with studies and that kind of thing. So the thought of me sitting with a book and going to lessons and all that kind of thing, it just scared the life out of me. And it just really, I just thought it's just never going to happen. When we moved here, you'll be amazed what happens. And it happens without you even know it. And you can do just the smallest things to help you along the way. Because for me, studying at that time, it just wasn't going to happen. But I remember there was it was a free program on I don't know where I got it from. I must have just written it in Google, and they were flip charts, and you would just learn words. So sometimes I would just sit there, and it would say, for instance, dog, and you have to put it in your mind what that is in Italian. Press the space bar, and it came up what it is in Italian, how you say it, and then it would say market, for instance, and keep doing things like that. And I just used to sit there not very often, believe me, it wasn't very often, and just sort of go through, just so you got the odd words. But then hanging around with people, and Italians are so friendly, they will not leave you on your own. You will be dragged into your next door's house. People want to know who you are, and that's how you do it. So what I would say to your husband is, I was probably in a similar position, and I really genuinely was. My Italian now, I can speak Italian. People say I'm fluent, but I know my verbs and things like that are terrible. But I can more than get by, and it does take time. But you'll be amazed how much you learn. So that kind of thing I wouldn't worry about. And it's great to be with expats, but you've got to have Italian friends, because that's what makes the experience better, and you will learn so much more from them. And Italians by nature are not shy at all. So they will. I remember my next door neighbors here, and it's an old couple. The old chaps died now, but they used to get to the point where they just used to think, well, we can't understand him, he can't understand us, but we've got to talk. So they just used to talk and just keep talking, and they would have conversations with me as if I was fluent, and it actually helps. It's unbelievable how much it helps. Excuse me. So don't be afraid of that. Embrace that kind of thing, and you'll be amazed how quick it comes on. Dennis, I saw this asked earlier about renovations, and I want to make sure I understood the answer. If we find a renovation home, you can help in managing the renovations. Yes, we can, but depending where it is, Dennis. If it's way out of our area, if you buy something in from our websites and that kind of thing, then yes, we can, because we've got the contacts in that area to do that. But if you're buying in, I don't know, you want us to help in La Marche or in Tuscany or wherever, then we don't have those. We can't help manage that kind of project. We can certainly help speak with your geometer and things like that. So let's say you're buying wherever, and you found a geometer, but the geometer doesn't speak any English, and you want to employ us to basically be there for every time you have a meeting with them. We're happy to do things like that. That's the kind of thing that we can get involved in, but we can't physically go there and manage it, that kind of thing. But yes, if it's in these areas, then yes. That's Tammy, is it? Tammy or Jamie? Anyway, Tammy, do you have time outside your scheduled tours to meet with folks and help them navigate the ins and outs of property hunting? Yes, I mean, we do. Tours are becoming a huge thing for us, but we do understand that people want to also do this on their own. I try and take people out as much as possible. Where I can't do it, then obviously it's passed to colleagues to do that. But yes, we can do that outside of tours with no problem at all. Unfortunately, what we're not able to do, I was speaking to Tony about this before we started this live show. I do get a number of people that say, we're in Italy at this time, it'd be great to meet you and have a coffee, buy you a meal and all the rest of it, and have a chat about how we can move forward, or maybe we can have a Zoom meeting and things like that. And it's horrible to say, but I have to turn people down, and it's almost like you're being sort of big-headed, and I'm not at all, because the thought of people taking me out for lunch is just fantastic. Unfortunately, we don't really have the time to do it, and that's why we do these Thursday nights, to try and give as much information to people about buying here. I understand people want to speak to them wherever you can. I will, but that's why I try and use these Thursday nights to try and put across to everybody as much information as possible. But yes, we can take people on property tours outside of tour dates with no problem at all. But having said all that, the tours are fantastic. Truman, is home insurance similar to the US? Not sure what the home insurance situation is in the US, but yeah, I mean, you basically cover yourself for contents or for the actual building on the outside as well. So yeah, it is I'll be honest with you, the vast majority, if you asked, I'll say the village where I am, which is probably 900,000 people, something 900 to 1,000 people, and asked how many people insure their houses, I would be extremely surprised if 10% said they insure. It's never really been an Italian thing, because certainly not in the countryside, because crime rates are so low. The way the houses are made, so there's lots of stone and that kind of thing, concrete. So not even water, or dare I say fire. Obviously, it does damage things, but it doesn't do the kind of damage in most instances that it can in other places. And lots of Italians, they just think it's just an extra expense that I don't want to do. So very few people. I'm coming from the UK where everybody gets everything insured. I found it quite strange that nobody does. But yes, I tend to find. I think that the Italian insurance companies, I think, are a lot cheaper, certainly than where I was in the UK, and I think it's because that a lot of people don't insure. But yes, it does work in the same way: buildings and contents and that kind of thing. Kim, are there any villages in Abruzzo that would be fun for someone in their 60s? Biking, hiking, kayaking, but easy to navigate once you are in your 80s. Yeah, loads of places, Kim. Everybody knows my favourite. Dare I say it again? I do think that the Peligna Valley, the Sulmona area, is great for this kind of thing because you are close to so many things. But I think it's then the public transport that is key then for later. There are other areas that, you know, more towards maybe the hub of Pescara, so more towards places like what's the place I'm thinking of, Tony? What's the name of the one beginning with C? Now I'll completely something not Sant'Angelo. He's writing it down now. He's going to show me on the Tony. Can I turn your camera on? I'm going to second that. Let me bring him on. Here's the producer. Which town am I thinking of?
Monte Silvano Carlo, is it?
There is that, but the other one, Città Sant'Angelo.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, you were no help whatsoever then, were you? Thanks. That's Tony, the producer. Get rid of him quick before we don't want him to keep staying on here for too long. So Città Sant'Angelo, maybe places like Penne, possibly those sorts of areas. I just think Sulmona is a great hub also because you've got that distance that you're not too far away from Rome as well, and especially for people again out of the European Union that are coming into the bigger airports, coming into Fiumicino, places like that. I just think having that hub almost in the center of Italy is great. But yeah, there are other towns and villages that you could well enjoy yourself well into your 80s. I'd be happy to advise on some of those. Absolutely Relative is asking a question. If we were to live in Italy with a cat, how hard would that be? There's loads of people bring their cats with them. So not hard. Tony's laughing. He puts this question to, it's not a ridiculous question. It's a serious question. No, it is serious. Loads of people bring their cats over. So it's not, in fact, I would say probably a good 50% of people that buy here will bring their pets with them as well. So no problem whatsoever. There are quite a few cats on the street, so you probably end up getting a few extra cats as well. But yeah, it's no problem whatsoever. Tony, have you got any more questions? We've got a few minutes left. Brett is saying, firstly, when will the website get a refresh this month? I'm getting pressured now. Brett's pressuring me. And will it accurately reflect what properties are still available moving forward? Yes, it will. And even as it is now, some people, the website that I've got, when you click onto a property, it actually only comes up when you actually click into the property and under the price, whether it's sold or under offer. So it is fairly accurate at the moment. What we've not done is update it with the new properties. So because you're putting me under pressure, I'm going to give a date when I'm going to do this by. Tony's laughing again. We are on the 7th of the, I'm setting myself up now here. I did say within September. So by the 30th, still in September, it will be completely up to date. And moving forward, it will be kept up to date. So there, by the 30th of September. Cindy, if I buy and only stay in Italy part of the year, is it necessary to have a property manager and cost? If you're thinking, are you thinking about renting, Cindy, or are you just thinking about having somebody that pops into the house? Depends what area that you're buying in. I mean, I would say there's a person I know in the Sulmona area, believe it or not, that looks after places. He charges, I think it's about €10 an hour. And then there's some places where people charge about €30 a month, and they will go in and check on it once a month. I would say it's great to get. There's always locals that are happy to help people look after properties and that kind of thing, and always locals that are happy to clean. And if you can get somebody local, it's brilliant because they tend to look after it more. They have the key. If there's been, I don't know, bad weather one night, they may think, oh, the following day I'm going to go and check. If I don't know, a shutter's slammed and smashed a window, they often see the properties and think, okay, I need to let people know. So if you can get somebody local, it's fantastic. There's not many property rental or property management companies here in Abruzzo. I've got to say that, and to me it would be a fantastic business. If anybody's thinking about coming here and setting up business, I think it would be a great one to do. So in my experience, not expensive, but I can't say that about every single area. But again, depends what kind of property. If you've just got to lock up and leave, if you're only going to come back for certain amounts, I don't know. There's a lot of houses, as long as you drain the water out, things like that, there's not really a lot that can go wrong. But hopefully you'll find somebody local that'll charge you, as I say, around about €10 an hour, pay them to go in sort of once a month or something like that. But actual property managers, few and far between. Okay, we'll do 2 more questions because it's now 8 o'clock. So Cherry gets the first one. What is the best time of the year to visit, to tour the area and view properties? Preferably not when it's too hot. I would say, I would always say, come the worst time of the year, and it's still great then. But I still think January is a great time to come. I really do think January is a great time to come and view properties because it's just a great time. It's when the scenery looks at. And it doesn't look at its worst because you've got the snow-capped mountains. The best time is spring. But I just think January is a great month because it's the quietest month. It's the one we're in, we're in winter time then. And winters here, in my opinion, are great. Certainly compared to where I was from in the UK. But I think January is great. So we have tours January, March, and May. I would choose either January or March, but I'd be really tempted for January if you're going to come on that because I just think it's a good time to come. If you like it in January, which you will, if you love it in January, then you're just going to go mad for it all the time. January. Okay, one more tone. Tom. Is there an approximate elevation guide for a town getting a little snow versus a lot of snow? Does Sulmona get snow? Okay, I know I talk a lot about Sulmona, but really there's lots of great places. It's just the places on our website I chose the areas personally, and it's not all in Sulmona at all. That's just an area that I think is popular because of public transport, things like that. Elevation guide, I would say. Over 1,000 meters, it's going to be colder, obviously. We don't get that much snow. I live at 500 meters, I think, 500 something meters, right next to the Maila Mountain. But I'm on the seaside. Sulmona is on the opposite side of the valley. So you are in a valley, you haven't got the warmth coming in from the sea. So it may be colder in the winter time, as in a few degrees colder maybe than where I am. It's also hotter in the summertime. But snow on the ground is just so little, unless you're sort of up near the ski resorts, obviously. But then you're going to be going way past the 1,000 meters and that kind of thing. So I would say that if you're looking at anything over 800 or 900 meters, see which side of the mountain you're on, whether it's the seaside or whether you're in the valley sides, and sort of further inland. But as far as snow is concerned, I think this year. Maybe had 2 or 3 days. I mean, I've been here now for such a long time, and the most we ever had was 2-3 weeks of snow on the ground. The last 5 years, it's a handful of days each year, and sometimes hardly that. But again, as I say, if you go up into the ski resorts, that's different. But the ski resorts are up there well on their own. So if you're going near to Roccaraso ski resort and some of the great villages there, Pesco, Costanzo, and places like that, then I would say, yes, they're going to have snow on the ground for a fair bit of time. But the vast majority of places, minimum snow. If you are looking near Sulmona, somebody asked me today what I thought of a place called Scanno. Scanno is a beautiful place, absolutely gorgeous lake there and the rest of it. Places like that will be freezing cold in the winter time because they're right in between 2 mountains that are quite close to each other. But it's not, people said, is it brutal? No, it's not. It's short-lived. and it's usually bright sunny days, and yeah, it's a little bit nippy, as we say in in Yorkshire. But yeah, it's, I wouldn't say it should be a massive thing, a massive consideration, unless you're over 1,000 meters. Then look into it a little bit more. Okay, I think I only got stumped out once. I think that that particular one. So I don't think that was too bad. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your support as usual. As I said to you before, I absolutely love doing these. I really do love doing them, and it's a pleasure to do them every single Thursday, and I will carry on doing them as promised before. So don't forget, next week we're going a little bit serious. But they are important things. So next week's subject, as I mentioned before, is the house I want to buy legal? I'm going to tell you how these documents work, how things are checked, and yeah, get rid of some of those worries that you may have about issues such as that. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Look out for this Saturday's property, which is video property on YouTube. That's going to be published at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. On Saturday, and then next week I've got this week we've got a penthouse in Sulmona. Then I've got a really cheap apartment coming on in Faro San Martino next week. There's going to be a great one, and a couple of detached properties. We've got some great stuff coming up. Absolutely great. Randall saying, do you have a video link of your Predsa property? That's a great property as well, Randall. If you just go onto our YouTube site, and you will see it. You will see it there. I can't put the link, unfortunately, here. If you can't find it, do me the contact me on info@homeinitaly.com, and I will send it to you. Michael saying Tony's fan club coming soon. He's got his arms up in the air, so no, that's just not going to happen. He's going to have to find his own channel to do it on. Okay, guys, thank you so much. All serious, and we'll see you again next Thursday.